The smoke alarm screamed through the Havenbrook Hotel at exactly 5:47 in the morning, but Callum Brennan was already moving. 7 floors of concrete and fire stood between him and the woman whose screams cut through the roar of flames. 7 floors that would change the course of two broken lives forever. He didn't think about the job interview that could save his daughter's future in 3 hours. He didn't think about the borrowed suit now burning on his back. He didn't think about the knee that doctors had warned would never hold up to this kind of punishment again. He only thought about her. The stairwell was a tunnel of smoke and brutal heat. Each step sent pain shooting through his left knee like a knife twisting in old wounds. That knee was a permanent reminder of the warehouse collapse 2 years ago, the night that had ended his career as a firefighter and shattered every dream he had built. But Callum had spent 5 years running into burning buildings when everyone else ran out. His body remembered the rhythm of rescue, even when his mind wanted to forget. 4th floor, the smoke grew thicker. 5th floor, his lungs burned with each breath. 6th floor, he could hear the fire now, roaring like a beast awakening from ancient slumber. 7th floor, he pushed through the stairwell door and stepped into hell itself. The hallway was a nightmare of gray-black smoke and orange flame dancing across the ceiling. Visibility dropped to almost nothing. The sprinkler system had engaged, but the water only created thick steam that mixed with the smoke, making everything infinitely worse. "Fire department," he shouted, the old words coming automatically. "Anyone here?" A sound cut through the roar, faint, desperate, someone coughing. "Help! Please!" Callum dropped to his knees where the air was clear and crawled toward the sound. Most doors stood open, rooms abandoned by guests who had evacuated, but one door remained stubbornly closed. Room 714. He reached the door and tried the handle, locked from inside. "Get away from the door, I'm coming in." He drove his shoulder into the door. Pain exploded through his arm, but the door held. Again, the frame cracked. Again. On the 4th impact, the door burst open. The room was filled with choking smoke. By the window, collapsed against the wall, he saw her, a woman in business attire, dark hair falling across her pale face. Her eyes were barely open, glazed with oxygen deprivation. She had tried to open the window. He could see the desperate scratch marks on the frame, but it was jammed shut. "I've got you," Callum said, moving to her side. "We're getting out." He wrapped his jacket around her shoulders and lifted her onto his shoulder. The muscle memory returned as if he had never left the job. She was lighter than he expected, or maybe the adrenaline made her seem that way. She coughed weakly, then whispered something against his shoulder, 3 words that made no sense. "Not an accident." Before he could ask what she meant, her body went limp. The hallway was worse now. Fire had spread with terrifying speed. Callum moved as fast as his damaged knee would allow, half running toward the stairwell. Behind him, a window exploded, feeding the hungry fire with fresh oxygen. 7 floors down. His knee screamed with every step, threatening to buckle, but it held. The woman's grip tightened halfway down. She was conscious again, holding on. Callum burst through the lobby door into controlled chaos. Fire trucks were pulling up outside. Paramedics rushed toward him, taking the woman from his shoulders, pressing an oxygen mask to her face. She opened her eyes one more time, looked directly at him. Her hand reached out weakly. "Not an accident," she whispered. "Someone deliberately." Then her eyes closed, and the paramedics wheeled her away. A woman with sharp eyes and a detective's badge stepped into Callum's path. "Sir, I'm Detective Rosa Delgado, Arson Investigation Unit. This fire shows signs of being deliberately set. I need your statement." Arson. The word connected with something the woman had whispered. "Here's my number." He pressed an old business card into the detective's hand. "I'll call you back. I promise. But I have somewhere I have to be." And then Callum Brennan disappeared into the Chicago dawn, leaving behind the sirens and the smoke, and the woman whose life he had just saved, a woman whose name he didn't know. 3 hours earlier, Callum had woken in darkness. 4:47 in the morning, 13 minutes before his alarm. Not because he had slept enough, he had only managed 3 fitful hours, interrupted at 2 a.m. when Waverly started coughing. His daughter, 6 years old, the center of his universe. He had spent an hour holding the nebulizer mask to her small face, reading her favorite story about the brave little lighthouse. Her breathing had evened out eventually, and she had fallen asleep curled against his chest. Now Callum sat on the edge of his bed and stared at his phone. Bank balance $412.37. Waverly's asthma medication, $287 per month. Rent due in 5 days, $1,200. The math didn't work. It hadn't worked in months. Today was supposed to change everything. The interview at Atlas Dynamics. Operations manager, $47,000 with full benefits. Health insurance that would cover Waverly's medication. It wasn't a dream job, but it was a job that could save them both. His mother Lorraine arrived at 5:15, moving through the apartment with quiet efficiency. She was 62, her dark hair streaked with gray, but her eyes were still sharp. She had raised Callum alone after his father, a police officer, was killed when Callum was 12. She had worked 2 jobs while putting herself through night school. Now she was helping raise her granddaughter while her son tried to piece his life back together. She hugged him at the door. "You've got this, Callum. You've never given up on anything in your life." He didn't tell her about the nights he had wanted to give up, the times he sat in his car outside Engine Company 51, watching the trucks roll out, remembering what it felt like to belong somewhere. 2 years ago, he had been somebody. Lieutenant Callum Brennan, Engine Company 51. Commendations on his record. Respect from his peers. Then came the warehouse fire on Ashland Street. The building had been a maze of old timber and improperly stored chemicals. Callum and 2 other firefighters had gone in for a final sweep. The second floor had given way without warning. 3 went in, 3 came out, but only 1 could still walk without limping. The department doctors wouldn't clear him for active duty. They offered him a desk position. That wasn't the job he had signed up for. Medical discharge, then the divorce. Jennifer had never wanted the life of a firefighter's wife, and she definitely didn't want the life of a disabled ex-firefighter's wife. Now he was just Callum, just a father trying to keep his daughter alive. He put on the suit borrowed from Mr. Chen next door. It was tight in the shoulders, loose at the waist. He shaved carefully, nicking himself once. "I'll call you as soon as it's done," he told his mother. "Go show them who you are." Callum walked into the cold Chicago morning, carrying the weight of everything he had left to lose. The Target bathroom at 7:30 was a harsh judge. His borrowed suit was ruined, burned, soaked with sweat and ash. He had $23 in his wallet and an emergency credit card. This qualified. New white dress shirt, $19.99. Bottle of cologne, $8.99. He changed in the stall, scrubbed his face until the skin was raw. The borrowed pants were dark enough that the soot stains barely showed. The cut on his palm from broken glass was deep. He bought bandages and did his best. The smell of smoke still clung to him. He sprayed the cheap cologne everywhere, knowing he probably smelled ridiculous. His phone buzzed. His mother. "Waverly still sleeping. I believe in you." Callum squared his shoulders and walked toward Atlas Dynamics. The building rose 15 stories into the Chicago sky, all glass and steel. The lobby was polished marble and expensive art. People in tailored suits moved with the confidence of those who belonged. Callum did not belong here, but Waverly needed her medicine. 9:02 in the morning. Conference room on the 8th floor. 3 people sat across the table. Derek Thornton, VP of Operations, with silver-streaked hair and skeptical eyes. Diana Marsh, HR Director, with a tablet and a practiced smile. Robert Kane, CFO, already checking his phone. They tried not to stare at his bandaged hand, the new shirt that didn't match his pants, the faint smell of smoke. Mr. Brennan, Derek began, your resume is impressive. 5 years with the fire department, rank of lieutenant. But you left 2 years ago. Can you explain? Callum opened his mouth to deliver his rehearsed answer, and then the door opened behind him. A woman walked in, black suit, tailored perfectly, dark hair pulled back professionally, a small bandage at her temple, faint redness around her eyes from smoke exposure. She had clearly been to the hospital and discharged herself early. 36 years old, CEO of Atlas Dynamics, Vivian Ashford. She took 2 steps into the room and stopped dead. Her eyes locked onto Callum's face. The color drained from her cheeks. Her hands shot out to grip the doorframe. You, she whispered. You're Brennan? Callum couldn't speak. The woman from the fire. The woman he had carried down 7 floors not 4 hours ago. His interviewer. His potential savior. The same woman. Vivian recovered faster than seemed possible for someone who had nearly died that morning. Before we begin, she said, her voice steady, I need to tell everyone something important. Derek, Diana, and Robert exchanged confused glances. This morning there was a fire at the Havenbrook Hotel. I had arrived the night before for a 6 a.m. breakfast meeting with investors. I was getting ready in my room when the fire broke out. She paused. This man ran into that burning building without protective equipment. He kicked down my door. He carried me down 7 flights through smoke and flames. Silence filled the room. And then he disappeared before I could ask his name. Now he's sitting here, applying for a job at my company. Diana's mouth fell open. Mr. Brennan, is this true? Yes, ma'am. Then surely this changes. No. Callum's voice was firm. I hope it doesn't change anything. Everyone stared at him. I don't want to be hired because someone feels obligated. I have a daughter named Waverly. She's 6 years old with severe asthma. Her medication costs more than our rent. She deserves a father who earns his living through skill, not pity. He leaned forward. If I'm not qualified, tell me honestly and I'll leave. But if you hire me, let it be because I can do the job, not because of this morning. Silence stretched for a long moment. Then Vivian smiled. Small, barely a curve of her lips, but it transformed her face. I think we have a great deal to discuss. Derek, Diana, Robert, I'll handle the rest personally. 30 minutes later, Callum sat in the CEO's corner office. The view was stunning. All of Chicago spread below through floor-to-ceiling windows. My team thinks you're overqualified, Vivian said. Derek believes you get bored and leave. Diana thinks your employment gap is a red flag. Robert thinks you're desperate. Callum's heart sank. They're right about all of it, Vivian continued. But they're missing something. She walked to her desk. Callum noticed a framed photograph, a younger Vivian beside a young man who looked remarkably like her. My brother Theo, he died 5 years ago. I'm sorry. He was 24, a safety engineer investigating a construction company cutting corners, falsifying inspections, using substandard materials. She picked up the photograph. What Theo didn't know was that Victor Mercer was secretly a major investor in that company. He had been funneling funds into Meridian Construction for years, profiting from every corner they cut. Theo's report would have exposed everything. Her voice hardened. Before Theo could file his report, the building he was inspecting caught fire. He didn't make it out. They said it was an accident, electrical fault. Case closed. Vivian set the photograph down. I never believed it. She placed a folder in front of Callum. Director of Safety and Crisis Management. Salary $65,000, full benefits. I've been trying to convince my board we need this position. They kept saying it was unnecessary. Her eyes met his. This morning changed everything. I almost died because safety systems failed, because someone decided maintenance wasn't worth the cost. She sat across from him. I'm not offering this because you saved me. I'm offering because you're exactly who should do this work. Someone who can't walk away when people are in danger. Someone who understands safety isn't about paperwork. It's about people going home to their families. Her voice dropped. Theo was like that. I think you are too. The first week was open warfare. Derek Thornton made his opposition clear. 10 years we've operated without a safety director. No major incidents. This position is a waste of resources. Something flickered in his eyes. Not just professional disagreement, but something more personal. Callum filed the observation away. Raymond Voss, the plant manager, was even more hostile. I've been running this plant 15 years. Nobody's died on my watch yet. Yet, Callum corrected. That word matters. Despite resistance, Callum threw himself into the work. He requested every incident report from the past 5 years, every near miss, every safety violation. That's when he found something that made his blood run cold. A report from 2 years ago, a warehouse fire on Ashland Street. His fire, the one that ended his career. The official cause, electrical accident. But that didn't match what Callum remembered. The fire had spread too fast. The alarm hadn't activated until the building was engulfed. He dug deeper. The truth was buried in an appendix. The alarm system had been manually disabled 30 minutes before the fire. No explanation given. At the bottom of the report, a signature closing the investigation. Victor Mercer, Chief Financial Officer. Callum spent hours researching Victor Mercer, 52 years old, Harvard MBA, CFO of Atlas Dynamics for 4 years before being terminated 6 months ago for embezzling funds. Now a senior consultant for Nexus Holdings, Atlas Dynamics' largest competitor. And here was the connection that made Callum's blood turn to ice. The warehouse on Ashland Street had been owned by a subsidiary of Nexus Holdings. The same man, the same company. Connected to the fire that had destroyed Callum's life. On day 4, Callum FaceTimed with Waverly. Her face filled his screen like sunshine. Hair in lopsided pigtails. Eyes bright with excitement. Daddy, I made you a present. She held up a crayon drawing. A tall building. A stick figure man with brown hair. Next to him, a woman with long black hair. That's you at your new job, and your boss, lady. Callum smiled despite the heaviness in his chest. It's beautiful, sweetheart. Waverly tilted her head, suddenly serious. Daddy, can I tell you something? Anything. I think your boss lady is sad inside. Why do you think that? Because of how her eyes looked on TV. She looked like she doesn't have anyone to draw pictures for. Everyone needs that, Daddy. Callum felt his heart crack open. His 6-year-old had seen something most adults missed. You're very smart, you know that? Waverly grinned. I know, Grandma says I got the smart from you. On day 7, Callum brought his findings to Vivian's office late in the evening. She was still working. The desk lamp cast long shadows. Through the windows, Chicago glittered. He laid everything out. The Ashland Street report, the disabled alarm, Victor Mercer's signature, the connections to Nexus Holdings. Vivian listened in silence, growing paler with each revelation. There's more, Callum said. Detective Delgado visited me. It found a security breach in your calendar system. Someone was remotely tracking your movements for months. They traced the access to an IP address registered to Nexus Holdings. Vivian's hands gripped her desk. He was watching me. And your brother. The construction company Theo investigated, Meridian, was a subsidiary of Nexus Holdings. The words hung between them. You're saying Victor killed my brother. I'm saying the same company and the same people connect 3 separate fires across 5 years. Theo's death, the warehouse that ended my career, the Havenbrook fire that nearly killed you. Vivian walked to the window, her reflection a ghost in the glass. Theo called me the night before he died. He was excited. He'd found proof of systematic fraud. He was going to take everything to the authorities. Her shoulders shook once. The fire started exactly where Theo was working, where he kept his evidence. They said it spread randomly, but it destroyed his office completely while barely touching the rooms on either side. Callum moved to stand beside her. After a moment's hesitation, he placed his hand on her shoulder. She didn't pull away. "We're going to find the truth," he said. "For Theo. For everyone Victor has hurt." Vivian turned to face him. Her eyes were wet but fierce. "Whatever it takes." On day 12, Victor struck first. Callum arrived to find security guards waiting in the lobby. "Mr. Brennan, you've been suspended pending investigation. Please surrender your badge." In the HR conference room, Diana couldn't meet his eyes. "We received an anonymous complaint, claims you falsified certifications, that you're pursuing an inappropriate relationship with Ms. Ashford. This is fabrication. Until we investigate, you cannot access company premises." 1 hour later, Callum sat in his car in the parking garage. His phone rang. Unknown number. "Mr. Brennan." The voice was smooth, dripping with contempt. "I don't believe we've met. Victor Mercer, I know who you are and what you've done." "Do you?" Victor laughed. "Then you know I don't lose. You should have stayed in your lane. You killed people. You almost killed Vivian." "Prove it." Amusement in his voice. "You can't." "Then why are you calling?" "Because I'm reasonable. Consider this your final chance." Victor paused. "I have friends at Child Protective Services, a single father who just lost his job under scandal. Living in a rundown apartment, struggling to afford medication for his chronically ill daughter? That's not exactly stable, is it?" Callum felt his blood turn to ice. "If you touch my daughter, I won't touch anyone. I never do directly." Victor's tone hardened. "Disappear. Take your daughter. Forget Atlas Dynamics exists. And if I refuse, then you'll lose the only thing that matters, your daughter. All perfectly legal." The line went dead. On day 15, Callum found Victor waiting outside his apartment. The older man leaned against a black Mercedes. "You didn't take my advice." "No. Child Protective Services visits tomorrow. Anonymous concerns about unsafe conditions." Victor's smile widened. "Last chance." Callum stepped closer until they were nose to nose. "Let me tell you about firefighters. We don't run from fire. We run into it." He kept his voice steady. "You've spent your life burning down other people's lives. That ends now." Victor's smile faltered. "You have nothing." "I have everything, and in 9 days, so will everyone else." Callum walked past him without looking back. On day 15, Vivian slid into his car in the parking garage. "I know what happened. Derek filed that complaint. He's been feeding Victor information. Victor was his mentor." Her voice was tight with fury. "Where are you?" "Parking garage." "Victor called me," Callum said. "He threatened Waverly." Silence. Then Vivian spoke. Pure steel. "You saved my life. Now let me save yours." She faced him. "Not because I owe you. Because this is right. Because I won't watch Victor destroy another family." Her eyes blazed. "He took Theo. He tried to kill me. He ended your career. Now he's threatening your daughter? I'm done being afraid." 9 days later, the annual shareholders meeting, 200 people filled the grand ballroom. Journalists, analysts, shareholders, television cameras. Victor sat in the third row, smirking like a man who had written all the dialogue. Vivian stood at the podium. "Before our financial presentation, I'd like to introduce Callum Brennan, our Director of Safety and Crisis Management." Victor's smirk faltered. Callum was supposed to be destroyed by now. Instead, Callum walked confidently to the podium. He clicked the remote. The first slide, the Ashland Street warehouse, collapsed and burned. 2 years ago, this warehouse caught fire. 3 firefighters were injured when the floor collapsed. The incident was ruled an electrical accident. Next slide. The incident report with Victor's signature. However, the alarm system was manually disabled 30 minutes before the fire. No justification given. The investigation was closed by a single signature. Victor stood. This is defamation. Security. Sit down, Mr. Mercer. Detective Delgado emerged from a side door, 4 officers behind her. Or I'll arrest you here, Callum continued. 2 weeks ago, someone planted an incendiary device at the Havenbrook Hotel. The target was Vivian Ashford. The device was paid through a Nexus Holdings account. The screen displayed records, credit card trails, IP logs. Victor tried to reach the exit. Officers blocked his path. Vivian stepped down and walked toward him. 5 years ago, my brother Theo died investigating safety violations at Meridian Construction, a Nexus subsidiary. The fire started exactly where he kept his evidence. She stopped directly in front of Victor. You killed my brother. You tried to kill me. Now everyone knows what you are. Detective Delgado pressed play on a recording. Victor's voice filled the ballroom. Make sure she doesn't leave that room. Not sloppy like what happened with the Ashford kid 5 years ago. Chaos erupted. Camera flashes exploded. Shareholders shouted. Victor Mercer, Delgado announced. You're under arrest for arson, attempted murder, and first-degree murder in the death of Theo Ashford. The handcuffs clicked shut. As Victor was led past Callum, he lunged forward. You're nothing, a failed firefighter. Callum met his eyes with calm. 2 years ago, you took my career. Today, justice takes everything from you. He leaned closer. I'm not a failure. I'm a father, a survivor, and the man who never stopped fighting. 6 months later. The coffee shop on West Adams Street hummed with morning energy. Callum stood at the exact spot where he had smelled smoke, where everything changed. Everything was different now. Vivian stood beside him, 2 coffees warming her hands, jeans and a sweater instead of a power suit, hair loose past her shoulders. On her left hand, a simple diamond ring. Do you ever regret it? She asked. Running into that building? No. He looked at the city awakening. I spent 2 years feeling like a failure. Running into that fire reminded me of the truth. What truth? That I can't walk away when people need help. That's not weakness. That's who I am. Inside the coffee shop, a small figure waved frantically. Waverly, 7 years old now, birthday celebrated last month with a huge party, bounce castle, 12 screaming friends. The birthday Callum had dreamed of giving her. Lorraine sat with her granddaughter, both working on a massive crayon drawing. Callum and Vivian walked inside. Waverly launched herself at them. Daddy, Mommy, Viv, look what we made. She held up the drawing. A tall building, a house with a swing set, 3 figures holding hands, a dog beside them. Above everything, our family. Mommy Viv. She had started calling her that 3 months ago, the day Vivian moved in. No one prompted her, just the wisdom of a child who had decided this was her family. It's beautiful, Vivian said, kneeling, but we're missing someone. Who? Cooper isn't in the picture. Cooper, the golden retriever Vivian had worried about in those terrifying moments in the smoke. He lived with them now, slept at Waverly's feet. Oh no! Waverly grabbed a brown crayon. He'll be so sad. She bent over the drawing, adding a lopsided dog. Callum sat beside his daughter. Daddy, remember what you always told me? When things were hard? What did I tell you? You said family isn't about blood. It's about choosing each other every day. She added a yellow sun. We chose each other, right? That's right, baby girl. Lorraine caught her son's eye and smiled through tears. 6 months ago, she had watched him walk out terrified of failing again. Now she was watching him build something beautiful. That evening, after Waverly was tucked in with Cooper at her feet, after Lorraine went home, Callum and Vivian sat on their porch. Stars filled the sky. Crickets sang. A soft breeze carried the scent of flowers. Delgado called today, Vivian said quietly. Victor's trial is next month. The prosecutor says it's airtight. He'll spend his life in prison. Good. And Theo's case is being reopened as homicide. They found records proving Victor paid someone to tamper with the electrical systems. Her voice broke. My brother was murdered. After 5 years of wondering, there's going to be justice. Callum wrapped his arm around her. Theo would be proud of you. Everything you built. I think he would have liked you. You're exactly the same kind of person. She smiled through tears. Someone who runs toward danger. They sat in comfortable silence, watching stars wheel across the sky. Do you believe in fate? Vivian asked. Callum considered. I believe in choices. I chose to run into that building without knowing who you were. You chose to trust me. We chose to fight together. He squeezed her hand. Fate might put opportunities in front of us, but we decide what to do with them. Vivian tilted her face up. Then I choose this life, this family. You and Waverly and Cooper and Sunday dinners with your mother. All of it. Me too, Callum whispered. Every day. Above them, stars continued their ancient dance. Inside, Waverly slept peacefully, her family drawing taped to the wall. Two people who found each other in fire and smoke sat together, grateful for every moment. From the ashes they had risen, not because of fate, because they chose to keep fighting, because they refused to give up, because sometimes that's all it takes.